What does it look like to hold the loss? Well, look again at Mark's account of Gethsemane. What does Jesus do in his state of anxiety, of being distressed and agitated? And he said to them, I am deeply grieved, even to death. Remain here and keep awake. I am deeply grieved. Jesus shows us what it looks like to hold loss. It's grieving. Grieving is holding the loss, feeling the loss in all of its sadness and mourning. Grieving is a critical holding move because we're especially tempted towards avoidance when we mistakenly think that a certain loss is intolerable, that it's unbearable, that it's unholdable. This is what drives anxiety. We fear that we cannot hold a future loss, so we have to do anything, insisting to avoid it. If anxiety is trying to avoid a potential loss in the future, grieving is actually holding a loss in the present. Grieving shows us that while any loss is indeed sad and mournful, it is bearable, it is holdable. So as we nurture our capacity to grieve, we nurture our belief that it is possible to hold loss. We nurture our holding capacity, and thus we're freed from anxious avoidance. Nurturing my capacity to grieve has been especially important to my spiritual growth as a parent. One of the losses I fear is the loss of this sense of security that everything is okay with my children. I'm a bit addicted to feeling perfectly okay if and only if my daughters are feeling perfectly okay. When they start experiencing pain or struggle, I am very tempted to pull out my around moves and anxiously figure out some way that everything can still be okay for them. My daughters call this mode consultant dad. They generally don't like consultant dad. Consultant dad makes them feel anxious. Consultant dad makes them feel anxious because consultant dad is anxious. Consultant dad is driven by anxiety, by a need to figure out some way to get around loss. I am trying to weed out consultant dad in my thinking as a parent. I'm learning, little by little, to stop my avoidance move. Instead, I'm learning, little by little, to just do more holding as a parent, simply grieving my daughter's pain or struggle and grieving my own loss of feeling that everything's okay. Jesus offers this holding move to his disciples. And he said to them, I am deeply grieved, even to death. Remain here and keep awake. Jesus is inviting his disciples, join me in grieving. Remain here. Don't avoid this grief. Don't try to get around this state. And keep awake. Keep awake to this experience of this grief. Don't distract or numb away the feelings of sadness. Jesus is also offering this holding move to you as his disciple. Jesus is inviting you to join him in remaining here in this place of grief, keeping awake to the experience and nurturing your holding capacity.